Greetings, welcome to Hexed Encountered. My name's Joe. In this video, we'll be doing part 2 of a playthrough of the scenario, The Trains Must Run. This is from Red Blitz, which is a Pocket Battles expansion for Old School Tactical Volume 1, 2nd edition from Flying Pig Games, designed by Shayne Logan. There is obviously a part 1, and I would suggest that it's probably wise to watch that before jumping into this one, just so you get scenario setup information and so on and so forth, because this one is going to get right into the gameplay. This is a 13-turn scenario. We are about to start turn 10. Now, that might seem like we're further in than we really are, because in this game, we count down. So we started at 13, and we've completed 13, 12, and 11. This is turn 10. In this turn, the Germans will get some reinforcements. I've already put them out on the map. They're getting 3 rifle squads, 1 captain. That would be Captain Lerva. And they are also getting 2 light machine guns and a Panzerfaust. So, as you can see, the situation here on the map, this is all of the units displayed. These are Soviet reinforcements that will enter on turn 7. These are German reinforcements that will enter on turn 9. These are Tiger tanks right here. So, getting some Panzers, because they do not currently have any, would be a step in the right direction for the Germans, but they will have to wait one more turn to get those. So I'm going to basically get things going here. I will zoom in when we get into some action, but the first thing we have to do, we roll for initiative. So we have our, again, the turn sequence, turn marker reinforcements. So we're at reinforcements, attach leaders and weapons. We've done that. That's these guys right here. Smoke counters, we don't have any. Scenario rolls, there aren't any. We don't have any bogged or shaken units that need to be rallied or checked for getting out of their bog situation. Initiative roll, so that is where we are. We roll all 4. The white are for the Soviets, the black are for the Germans. The Germans win initiative 5-3. So now we'll roll to see how many initiative points the Germans have. And they get a 3D plus 2. So we're going to roll 3 dice. They get a total of 10 plus 2 is 12, so they have 12. Now we'll roll the Russians. They also get 3, but they get a plus 3 instead of a plus 4 because of casualty points. They get 10, or rather 11 plus 3 is 14. So it is 14-12. So the Soviets have more points, but the Germans have initiative. Okay, so we've zoomed in a bit because we're going to start moving some units. So I think we're going to take our squad here with Sergeant Lindau. And they have a Panzerfaust, which has a range of 2, 1, 2, 3. They can't quite get to this tank yet. So range is 2. Firepower is 4. The range for this unit is 6. They don't get anything for the Panzerfaust, but they will get a plus 1 DRM on their fire. But because of Sergeant Lindau, it's 4-4. Their defense is a 4. So we will be rolling in the 0 column of our infantry combat table. Let me bring mine. And this is going to be a good roll. It is a 12. That is going to eliminate the sappers. So as you can see, a 12 or more. This would actually be a 13 because of the plus 1. So that is going to be it for that unit. So again, that is 2 more points, and they're now at 10, so they now lose 2 on their DRM for impulse rolls. So they'll now be 3D plus 2, which is exactly the same as what the Germans have. We're going to stick a fired marker on our stack right here. And now we switch over to the Soviet side. So now their question is, what do they do here? So I think what I'm going to do is, we have this unit right here. I'm going to actually dismount these guys. So we have a sapper with a leader, and they have a satchel. So we're going to dismount, which costs 1. It's 2, and their movement is a 3. So they can't move into the woods. They'll have to move here or here, or here or here, or here, I guess. So they have some options, but we're going to move here. So that's their 1 activation. Now we're going to go back to the Germans. Well, since these guys just jumped out, we're going to fire on them with this heavy machine gun and this rifle squad right here. So I could have done it as opportunity fire. It really doesn't matter, except that it saves you well, it still costs you an impulse point. So it may have been better when they jumped off, but when they came here, whatever, I'm not doing opportunity fire. We're just going to play it straight up. So they are in clear terrain. There's no terrain modifiers. The range is 3. So they have 4 firepower plus the heavy machine gun adds 3 to make it 7. They have a defense of 4, 4. So that's a +3. That's in the 3 column. So if we look at our die roll modifiers, they're not adjacent. It's not melee. There's no degrading line of sight. They're not shaken. There's no intensive fire. Now, I haven't really used intensive fire. You can, of course. I haven't done it. I may do it at some point, but I haven't done it yet. Moving fire, no. Attached leader, no. No height difference, no ambush. They're not in melee. None of these apply. And intensive fire, again, doesn't apply. And then that's the leader casualty roll, which we would have to do if they take the casualty. So let's move our box back in here, Dice Tower. We're on the +3 column, and they roll a 7. And a 7 in the +3 column is 7. Casualty. So we are going to have to do a roll to check for the leader here, but the squad takes a casualty. So that's 11 casualty points now. And let's look at Chekhov here. So for our leader roll, owning player rolls 1d6 when attached unit takes a result. If unit destroyed, a 1/3 leader is destroyed. Casualty, a roll of 1, and leader is destroyed. So we're going to roll 1 die, and if we get a 1, he's killed. He's not. So he survives. And now we go back to the Soviets. So I think what we're going to do now is we're going to take this unit, I think. We're going to take this guy right here, and he's going to go 1, 2, 3. And now he's going to stop, and this guy's going to take an opportunity fire shot at him. So the thing is, though, the reason that I stopped him here is this is now a flank shot on my unit here unless I turn him, which is why I'm doing an opportunity fire. Okay. So he moved here to attack our martyr. Now the martyr's front goes up this line right here, this line of hexes. So it's actually a flank shot for him. But he's going to attack first via opportunity fire as soon as he moves into that hex. One thing about opportunity fire is if there's no effect, then the Germans would get their impulse, their turn. If there is an effect, then their turn would stay with the Russians and they would be able to fire back, basically, which is what we're trying to avoid unless they knock it out, which is unlikely because the martyr's gun is not particularly strong as compared to the the Soviets' armor here. So the range for our martyr, here's our martyr's card. The range is only 3. So we do have a 2-hit number of 6. Their AP firepower is 8. So just as we have an infantry combat table, we have a vehicle one as well. Adjacent target, no. Melee, no. Degraded line of sight, no. Shaken, no. Intensive fire, no. Moving, no. Leader, no. No height difference, no ambush, no intensive fire. Then our 2-hit modifiers: captured, no. Shaken, no. Reduced, no. Elite, no. Poor, no. They're not immobile. Acquired, not yet. And then degraded line of sight, no. We're going to roll here for the 2-hit first. So we need a 6 or higher, and we get a 2, so we don't even hit them. So that's just a flat-out miss. So what happens in that instance is we get a fired marker, and now it's the Germans' turn. Now to prevent the flank shot, because if we look at his armor, actually it's a 2 either way. It's a fairly thin-skinned unit. So what I'm going to actually do instead is I'm going to shoot at him again. I mean, I might as well. I forgot to do that. He gets a moved marker. So let's, so we're going to run the same thing again, same situation. We need a 6 or higher. This time we get it. So now to hit, We have an 8 firepower. Their armor is a 12, so we're in the -4 column. And a 7 in the -4 column is nothing. So they are now used. Now it goes back to the Russians. And we're just going to have this guy shoot at our martyr here. So his firepower, let's pull out the card for our IS-2 with its whopping 122 millimeter cannon here. The range, as we know, is 5, or is less than 5, so it's a 7 to hit number and an AP firepower of 14. So that is a big number. So his 2 hit is a 7. Now, we do have terrain here. We do have the stone wall. So stone wall is the grade line of sight, a -1 for that. +2 for units adjacent to and attacked across a stone wall. So their defense will go up from a 2 to a 4, which still isn't going to help them much. But what we have to hope is that the hit doesn't happen. So his 2 hit number is a 7, as we know. So degraded line of sight is a -1. So we're going to roll, and he needs a 7 or higher, but there's going to be a -1 DRM. Then there'll also be a -1 DRM on his firepower, but it won't matter because it's really high. And look at that, he rolled a 3, so he missed. So that's a big old sigh of relief for the martyr there, because that was looking bad. And now we go back to the Germans. So the Germans have 8 impulse points left. The Soviets have 3. Yeah, they have 11. So I think given the current situation, what we're going to do now, move this this stack here. Now we can do it as a group move because we have a leader. So this costs 2 impulse points. We're moving this group right here with Captain Lova. And it is 2 units, 2 rifle squads, a Panzerfaust, and a light machine gun, which is the limit that you can do with a group move. It's 2 units and 2 support weapons with the attached leader. So it's 2 impulse points. He's on a road, so it's only going to cost him actually. So it costs one movement point to move on here. Normally this would be a road and it would be half, but all the road hexes on this map 4 are railroad hexes. So it's going to cost them 4. Now their movement point is a 4. So they're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. And they're going to stop and be moved, and that costs 2, so they're down to 8 now. And we go back to the Russians. There is woods in that half of the hex, so I'm going to use it. I'm going to treat it as a wooded hex, which the unit can move through, but it costs 3 movement points, and you have to take a bog roll for it. So they're going to move here. That's going to cost 3. Their movement is 5, so they have 2 left. Now this hex here is brush, which costs 2. So assuming they can get through here, they're going to move here, and then they'd also be able to fire at the martyr. But first we need to make sure that they don't get bogged down. So here's our player aid sheet for terrain, right? So we have woods, wheeled can't enter it, tracks can, 3B means bog check. Here's our bog check. We roll 1d6 when entering tracked units, bog on a roll of 1. So we're going to roll 1 die. And he rolled a 3. So he does not bog down, which allows him to complete his move. Come here. He's going to turn that way. And we're going to put a moved marker on him. Go back to the Germans. And we'll move our other unit up, I think. So this here, all right, I can't really figure out what this is, this here. I don't see it in the book. Based on other terrain, I'm going to assume it would have 2 movement points cost. So I'm going to move my foot through here at 2, 3, and we'll go, let's go here, 4. And we're going to head them in this direction. Let me put a moved on there. The Germans have 5 impulse points left. We're going to move this tank. And we're going to go 1, 2, when he gets here, we're going to have the flak take a shot at him. So our 88 is going to take a shot at this guy because he has line of sight to him. The range is only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is our nice 6 to hit number. And we get a 16 for firepower because he's not reduced. Now he's in clear terrain. He's moving, so he's currently halted. And we're going to roll for our 2 hit number, which is a 6. So 6 or higher hits him. He gets a 7, so that hits. Now we're going to roll in our, let's see, we have a 16 firepower, 12 armor is 4 on our vehicle combat table. And we get an 8, and an 8 in the +4 is an X, which means he has been knocked out. So the 88 is really killing this Russian armor here. Now we need to check to see if the crew gets out, and anything other than a 6, they are destroyed as well. They rolled a 1, so they are dead. So that's now 12 casualty points, I believe. They've knocked out 3 tanks with crew, that's 6, and they've killed 3 sapper units, that's also 6, so that would be 12. So they get a fired marker, and it actually remains the Soviets' turn because the opportunity fire was successful. So let's move, let's take this rifle unit here. We're gonna dismount for 2, 3, 4. We're going to try to move these guys up to get close enough to actually do something here. Now, they don't have line of sight here, so they can't really do anything. I don't think they have line of sight because of this hex here. They don't even have line of sight to this hex. But we're going to put a moved marker on these guys. Now, it's unlikely they'll move again. So the Soviets are now down to 8, and the Germans are down to 4 impulse points, and it is now the Germans' turn again. And let's see, what do we want to do now? Well, we can do some fire here on these guys. So we'll do second fire here with our rifle squad, which has a heavy machine gun. So again, the firepower is 4 plus 3 is 7. Their defense is a 4. And so we're in the 3 column. We don't have any fire modifiers. So we're just going to roll here. And we get a 7, and a 7 on the 3 column is another casualty. So that will kill this squad, which gives them, actually, they're at 14 now because I had forgotten that 1. So they're at 14. And now we have to roll for the leader here. And now the unit was destroyed, so a 1 to 3 will kill Lieutenant Chekhov. And it's a 2, so he's also been killed. And yeah, the Germans are really making hay here on the defense, holding strong so far. So we go back to the Soviets, and the Germans are down to 3 now. So the Soviets now will fire. He's going to fire at our martyr here. So it's front armor. We do have the stone wall again. So the stone wall, as we know from before, is going to give a +2 defense, and it's also going to degrade the line of sight. So this is the IS-2. The range is 1, 2, 3. This is also degrading terrain, so he's going to take a -2. So his 2 hit number is a 7 with a -2 DRM. So he really needs to roll a 9 or higher. And he rolls a 7, so that is going to fail. So he's now used. I think the Germans are just going to pass and not have to spend an impulse point, so they'll stay at 3. The Russians are at 8. So what the Russians will do, and I just realized I did not have the camera on the shot that I just took. So to recap, we had this tank fire at our martyr here. We have our stone wall. This is degrading terrain. So the shot actually missed. He rolled a 7, but with the +2 DRM, he needed 9 because we have degrading terrain here and here. So it ended up being missed. He's just used now. So now back to the Russians' turn. We're going to move these sappers right here. And they're going to move. So in the woods, woods movement cost for foot is 2. So they're going to move 2, 3, and they're going to take the satchel. Well, technically they should bring these with them, but they can only use one of them. And then we'll put a moved on here. The Germans will pass again. We're going to leave them as being moved, and we're going to move these guys. I think we might keep them on their truck for this turn because we can. And we need to get them somewhere where they can actually, you know, maybe destroy some railroad here, which is not going to be easy because they can still fire. That guy can fire. They can fire. This guy can fire. These are not in play. All right, we're going to risk this here. We're going to go 1, 4, take a bog check. So we need to roll a 1, and we don't. So they didn't bog, but that's 4 now. 5, and they're going to stop moving, and they're going to move these guys off, and they're going to go, this is a rifle squad, yeah. So they're going to get off here 1, 2, and move into the woods, which costs 2 as well. So they're going to go there, and these guys are used. And these guys are moved. Not that they can do anything else. So that's 2 impulse points used, which brings them down to 5, I believe. All right, so back to the Germans, who still have 3. They will shoot at these guys because I believe they can. Like, that's degrading line of sight. So it's degraded line of sight, but I'm pretty sure they can still shoot at them. Because you can shoot through another unit, so they can shoot through these tanks at these guys. So we have Kittle, who's a leader, rifle squad, and they have a light machine gun. So our firepower is 4 plus 2, which is 6. Their defense is going to be a 4, so it's a 2 difference. So we're in column 2. We're going to get a +1 DRM for Sergeant Kittle. We're going to lose. The defense goes up by 1, and it degrades line of sight. So basically, it's a 5 defense. So 6 minus 5 is obviously 1, and we get a +1 DRM. So first, let's get our tower in here. We're going to roll. We're in the +1 column, and we rolled a 3, which is going to be nothing. So a 3 plus 1 is a 4. That's still nothing. So they're going to get. Okay, that leaves the Germans with 3 impulse points left. The Russians have 6. It is the Russians' turn. Let's unload our infantry from this truck. So that would be 1, and then 1 for the terrain, and then 1 to move here, which would leave them with 1 more. So let's go here. And we'll mark them as moved as well, although basically they're going to be used because they can't really do anything. Okay, so we're going to do another attack here with this guy on our unit right here. So we're looking at the same exact thing, right? We have a rifle squad with a firepower of 4, light machine gun with a firepower of 2. We have a leader there, which will give it a +1 on the DRM. We have 2. We have a degrading terrain, so that's going to be a -1 as well. So we know that the degrading terrain gives them a degrades the line of sight, and it adds +1 to the defense. So if we go in here, right, we look at firepower modifiers, degraded line of sight, -1 per. So basically it's +1 defense, -1 firepower. Since firepower, you subtract defense from firepower, basically it's a wash, right? Their defense is a 4, firepower is a 6. We'll take one off of that. It's a 5, so that's going to be in column 1. Then on the die roll modifiers, we're going to get a +1 for our attached leader. So we're going to roll again, same thing we just did here. And we get an 8 this time. Now we're in the 1 column, and an 8 in the 1 column is casualty. So let's move this off. So they take a step loss, that's another 1. Now given that they've already lost 8 and 10, 12, 14, 15, they've actually now lost 3, a total of 3 from their die roll modifier, from casualty points. So they have 3 casualty points now. Germans have 2 impulse points left. The Russians have 5. So we have this unit up here. It's on a truck. We're going to move it. And I think because of the way the woods line up, like this woods right here is going to block line of sight along this path. So we're just going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're going to stop here because this gun can still fire on a unit. It hasn't done so yet, but it's probably going to fire on this guy right here because it can, as can these guys. Well, I don't know that this one can act. Well, yeah, it's degraded. That's degrading terrain. So I have two impulse points left from the German side. This is actually probably the last one I'm going to use on the Russian side. So they're going to stop here. The truck's going to stop. We're going to dismount. So that would be a 2. And I think they're going to actually just, well, no, they're going to dismount. And because they have 4 movement points, they can move into the woods. So they're going to move into the woods. And I'm going to mark them as moved. I'll mark the truck as used because it can't fire. And that will be the end of their impulse. So we go back to the Germans, and so we're going to fire with our Flak 36 for HE, and it's the range is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's well within range. So it's a 5 on a 4, which leaves 1 column plus there's a -1 there. So it's basically going to be a 0 column. So we're just rolling on the 0 column here. They don't have a leader bonus or anything like that. Roll the 6. A 6 on the 0 column is a shaken. So the Russians will now have to take a gut check. We know their number is a 7. He rolled a 9, so that's good. So the 9 is above the 7, so that is a good gut check for them. The leader does not have to make a gut check. This unit is now used. Soviets now, actually what I think they're going to do is we'll just back this truck off because we can. We have the impulse points for it. So 1, I'm going to drop a used on here. Go back to the Germans. We'll probably elect to shoot with, I guess we'll shoot with this guy because he has the +1 for the leader. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's in range. We do have a -1 on our line of sight because he's shooting through the wreck. And wrecks are considered to be degrading terrain. We're going to take a -1. So we have a 4. It's going to become a 3. Their defense we know is a 4. So we're in the -1 column. But we do get the +1 die roll modifier. So let's roll. And we rolled a 12, and that's a great roll. And even in the -1, a 12 is an X. So we just eliminated this rifle squad. And we have to roll for Zuralev now for a casualty for him. If it's a 1 to 3, he is also killed. It's a 4, so he is still alive. These guys are now used. And that's the last German activation. So I'm just going to drop I already did that. We're just going to move this guy out of here now. We'll go 1, 2. So that will do it for this turn. So we're going to move to turn 9. Now, both sides, actually, the Germans had a rocket strike. The Russians had an airstrike in turn 10, and I did not use them, and I was going to, and then I remembered or read in the rule book and reminded myself that you actually, that has, well, the rockets at least have an effect throughout the entire turn, rockets and artillery. So you want to do that early rather than late, because any units that then move through there will get attacked. All right, it's on to turn number 9. The Germans got a few reinforcements this turn. They picked up 3 Panzer VI. Those would be Tigers. They are over here. I have 2 stacked here with their leader, Lieutenant Kruger, and the third one right there, somewhat adjacent. Half hexes are not in play, so they have to go into full hexes. So they have that going for them this turn. They also get their rocket strike, and the Soviets will be using their airstrike. Now, the Soviets also get an artillery strike on turn number 7, I believe. Yes, they get an artillery strike on turn 7, which is also when they're going to pick up 4 Su-85s and 4 squads of shock infantry. So let's get this thing going here and start off with our rolls for initiative. So again, black for the Germans, white for the Soviets. Germans get a 9, Soviets get a 5. That would indicate that the Germans get initiative. So now we will move on to rolling for impulse points. Germans get, oh, I have to roll 3 dice. So that's a poor roll. 6 plus 2 is only 8. So this is going to be a thin turn for the Germans. Now let's roll the Soviets. They get 3D plus 1 instead of 4 because they've lost 3. They've lost more than, well, they've lost 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15. They've lost 15, which is 3 casualty points. They get 7, 11 plus 1 is 12. So 12 for the Soviets, 8 for the Germans. Germans get to go first. So let's start off with our rocket strike. All right, so we're going to put a strike on. Let's put it here. Probably not the greatest spot for it, but I'd like to put it up top somewhere, but there's just not enough. There's no line of sight up there, basically. So once we place our strike marker, we roll 1d6 for accuracy. So each type of artillery has an accuracy number. For rockets, the accuracy number is a 6. So it has to be equal to or higher than the accuracy number. So basically, we have to roll a 6. And look at that, we rolled a 6. All right, so it is accurate. Oh, plus 1 is added to the roll for accuracy if the spotting unit's in range of a good order leader, which they are. So, all right, so there's only one target in the hex. They're all if there are multiple, each is attacked separately with the same firepower. The firepower here for a rocket is 8. Vehicles are hit automatically and resolve the attack against their flank defense. We're going to roll for our attack, and it's going to get resolved against flank defense. And the flank armor for this particular vehicle is a 9. So that is a -1 here. So here's our table. So here's -1. So if we roll a 12 or 11, we'll destroy them. Anything 7 or higher will do something. So we're going to roll here. And we rolled a 9. So we rolled a 9. A 9 is casualty. So the strike marker stays in place. Well, let me check this on a casualty result for a vehicle. Oh, wait, I looked at the wrong table. I'm an idiot. A 9 is D for damaged. So damage, now we have to roll to find out what kind of damage. So here's our damage rolls. So we're going to roll here to see what this is. 1 or 2 is minor. 3 is machine guns. 4 is main gun. 5 is immobilized. 6 is abandoned. They rolled a 2, so that's minor damage. So minor damage essentially, I believe, is just basically nothing. So yeah, it's basically minor damage. So no effect, which is disappointing after I rolled a 6 and everything. But that leaves the Germans now with 5. What did they have? They had 8, right? It was 12, 8. So they now have 7 impulse, and the Soviets have 12, and the Soviets get to go first here, or now, rather. One thing I didn't notice earlier was this is not a turreted vehicle, which I should know because it's a mortar. But the way that's indicated on the counter is you see here the corner, instead of having a full red triangle, it's got a gray insert in it, essentially. That indicates that the facing is where the gun is facing as well. So our gun is actually facing this tank. So we're going to move. The strike stays here. This guy's going to move here for 1, then here for 2. And he's going to stop because the plan is to do what's called an assault move, and we'll do that on our next turn, or next available impulse, which will move him into the hex here with our mortar. And the mortar can't do anything, although it could in theory turn and fire at it, which we could do, but again, that's 2 impulses and we won't be able to get to it. The better thing might be for this guy to simply fire at him while he can. So that leaves that's 1 impulse used for the Soviets, which leaves them with 11. The Germans have 5. We can do a group move over here with these guys to bring them into the fight. So I could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, for example. So let's do that. The Germans will use 2 impulse, 2 of their very few impulse points, because they only have 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to put a moved on here. Now, that leaves them with 3. The Soviets still have 11, and it's back to them now. So the question now is, do we move him in for via an assault move? I think we should. So the Soviets will go for the assault move. So they're going to move in here. Now, it's a little unclear, and the rules don't actually address this as far as I've seen. But because this is a move into a new hex, I still think they can do opportunity fire, and you can actually do a group opportunity fire. So I think we're going to do that. So let me put, first of all, this would get a melee. Okay, but I'm gonna hold that for a second while we figure this out. Okay, so looking at our Tiger here, let's figure out if we want to do a group fire or not. If we do and we hit, it's going to be devastating because we're going to put 32 firepower factors on here. Because here's our Tiger. Here's our Tiger card. Okay, it's packing an 88 millimeter. Powerful gun here. The range is under 7, so it's going to be a 2-hit of 6 and a firepower of 16. You can see this is a pretty badass tank, which is why it's famous, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. So this would they'd be firing directly at the back of this tank, and the armor back there is a 9. So that's already a +7, and that's the highest value on the chart. So to me, it doesn't make sense to do a group fire. I should just use 1. And I won't even use the leader. Well, maybe I will use the leader because the leader will give me a +1 on the die roll. All right, so we're gonna fire with one of these tanks. They are moved. So this would be the final action here for one of these tanks and the leader. The other one, so I'm gonna use 1 impulse point, which will knock me down to 2. For the Germans. So they're going to fire. It's going to be a 2-hit roll of 6. So that's the first step. And if we fail this, then it's bad news. And we got a 6, barely. All right. So they did get the 6. So now they roll for the. There is no degraded line of fire because the stone wall actually, they're coming through this hex side. There's no wall there. And so now we're going to roll the attack, and if we roll a 5 or higher, this is going to destroy that tank. It's a 3. So the 3 becomes a 4, and a 4 is a broken, a gut check for broken. Okay, so here we go. They need a 7 or higher, and they get it. So they are not broken. They take the hit, but it doesn't do anything, so they're now in melee. These guys are now used. I'm gonna put Kruger and the used on the bottom. All right, Germans are down to 2. We're now back to the Soviets. Let's move this guy right here, and we'll go 1. Actually, that's going to be 2 because that's brush, and he's going to move here for 4. And when he moves here, this guy will take an opportunity fire shot at him. Why not? It's only going to leave us with 1 impulse point, but we got to try and, you know, eliminate their tanks if we can. So the range is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He is in brush, so that gives them a little bit of a modifier here on the terrain chart. They do get a +1, so they get a +1. The line of sight's not degraded because they're in the first hex of that terrain, so they're visible. Basically, is what it really boils down to. So our 2 hit number is still a 6, but their defense will get bumped up from a 9 to a 10. Their firepower, as we already saw, is a 16. Oh, I'm sorry, 13. It's front armor. So we're in the 3 column, but first we need to see if we hit. We need a 6, and we get a 6. Now we're rolling on the 3 column, and we rolled a 4, which is probably not going to be anything. Nothing. So not good rolls there for the Germans. I'm just going to put this guy back on the bottom now because he's just used like the other guys are. And we'll save a counter. So they're down to 1. They'll get a moved marker. They'll move 1 more and stop. So it was opportunity fire. They used it since it didn't do anything. They're allowed. It's now their impulse anyway. If they had hit and damaged, then it would have gone. Impulse would have gone over to the Soviets. So the Germans are down to 1. You know what? I'm not going to pass for the Germans. We're going to attack this unit with these guys right here. So it's Sergeant Kittle rather, and his rifle squad and the light machine gun. Or do we want to go with the heavy? Let's go with the heavy. So we get a 4 + 3 is 7 firepower. We're attacking these sappers right here. Range is 3. They are in clear terrain. Their defense is a 4. So it's 7-4. We're in the 3 column. It's really straightforward attack. We roll a 9. A 9 in the 3 column is a casualty and a shaken. They're already reduced, so that's going to eliminate this sapper. Push the Soviets' casualty number to 16 now. They get a fired marker, but they're basically done because we're out of impulse points. So the Germans are out of impulse points. We go back to the Soviets. Now this guy will shoot here. So he's got a firepower of 14. The range is 1, 2, 3, 4. And they're in clear terrain. There's no degradation. So the armor on the front of the Tiger is an 8, or 10 rather. And the range is 1, 2, 3, 4. So for the Soviets, 0 to 5, the 2 hit is a 7, firepower is a 14. 14 minus 10 is 4, so they'll be in the 4 column. We'll just say they'll attack the top one here. So let's roll for our 2 hit. We need a 7. They get a 5, so they fail. So they're now used. And we go to back. Now the Soviets can just continue to stack actions because the Germans can't do anything. They can't even opportunity fire at this point. So let's finish up down here, and then we'll go do the top area stuff. So I think what we're going to do, because we need to destroy some rail here, is we're going to take our 2. We're going to leave the. Well, I guess I don't think we can drop this right now. So they'll go here for 2. Woods costs 2 for infantry. Brush costs 1. So they can go here for 3. Then here for 4. They will stop there. We'll put a moved on them. And then because the Germans can't attack, we'll go back. They'll now fire because they can. Germans can't do anything. We do have firepower of 3 plus 2 is 5. Range is well within range. The Germans' defense is 4. They are in a heavy structure. Heavy structure defense is plus 2. So that's going to give them a 6. So it is 5 attacking 6. They'll be in the -1 column. They roll a 6. They do have a leader. So that 6 becomes a 7. 7 in the -1 column is a shaken. So we'll roll for a gut check for the Germans. Their numbers are 7. They roll a 10, so they're good. And now these guys are used. So now we're going to readjust here because we need to do the northern area. So the guys up at the top here. So I'm going to move the camera and then we're going to pick it up. Okay, so we're in the northern area. The Russians have not used their airstrike yet, but we're going to take care of that right now. We're going to actually put it on here. Yeah, so we're going to do an airstrike here. So airstrikes are fairly similar to the other off-board attack, but it's a little bit different. So it affects 2 adjacent hexes. At least one of the hexes must be in the line of sight of a good order unit. So our spotting unit is over here. It's this leader who lost his squad. So we're gonna put the airstrike in here on our 88, because if they can knock the 88 out, things might get a little easier for them. Although the 88's already taken out 3 of their tanks. Okay, so airstrikes cost 1 impulse point. It would leave them with 5. Declare which 2 hexes. So we're going to hit those 2 hexes. And the owning player rolls 1d6 for pilot quality. Dice tower in here so you guys can see. Rolled a 6. A roll of 6, the pilot is an ace, attacking both hexes with a firepower of 8. So this is big. The firepower used in the attack is the same against all target types and used for both hexes. Separate attack rolls are made against each hex. It does say defending units receive all modifiers for terrain and fortifications. Exception, hedges, stone walls, and bocage provide no defensive bonus. Vehicles are hit automatically and resolved attack against flank. Hexes with structures check for structure collapse after the attack on the units. Attached leaders take leader casualty rolls in the attack, while leaders on their own are attacked normally. So firepower attack of 8 here. Our defense is a 4. So we're going to roll this out here and see what we get. And we got a 3. So a 3 in the 4 column. Surprise, surprise. We're in the 4 column. That's nothing. So that hex is undamaged. Now we'll try the gun. And they rolled a 4. And a 4 in the 3 column is nothing. Oh, actually, their defense is also a 4. So, yeah. So that's nothing. That's bad rolls for the Soviets, which is kind of the story of the game to some extent for them. So that did cost them an impulse. They're down to 5. They're going to have to try to do this the old-fashioned way. So we're going to activate our rifle squad here, and he's going to move up. That costs him 2. This costs him 1. He has to stop there. So I'm going to put a moved on here temporarily, because the next thing he's going to do, which will bring us down to 3 activations, is he's going to get in here for a melee. And we're going to put a melee marker on here. And we won't worry about the used marker. So that leaves them with 3. So now this guy can also move up. 1, 2. So they're going to stop there. So let's see. If they were here, half, 1, 1.5, 2.5. Let's move into this building. So the small building costs 2 to move into. So they're going to go in there and stop. All right, so we needed to fix that because that was incorrect. Once a melee is set, you can't add additional units to it. So if I had stacked that differently, I might have been able to get it in there because I would have been able to, once the first one moved, stop them here, move the second one up to there. Actually, that wouldn't have worked either because we don't have a leader. So you need a leader to actually get in there with them. I could have moved this leader up instead of moving the truck, which was dumb, but I'm not going to go back and undo that right now. So that was a bad move on my part. And we're just going to do our melee here. So this works pretty straightforward. We look at the attack of each side against the defense of each side. So for the Soviets, it's 1 rifle squad with a firepower of 3 against the Germans' defense of 4. So they'll be in the -1 column. The Germans will be in the 1 column because they have a 4 firepower against a 4 defense. And because it's only 1-on-1, it's really straightforward. There are no leaders. There's no vehicles. There's not really anything that's going to really affect it. If we look at here, we are in melee, so everybody gets a +2. So that's going to move the Russians to the +1 column and the Germans to the +2 column. We don't have any die roll modifiers. Nobody's shaken. We don't have any of these guys in here. They're just rifle squad on rifle squad. And yeah, that's it. So we're going to roll. We'll roll it all. It's all simultaneous. We'll roll it. We'll roll each side and then apply the effects. So we'll do the Russians first. They're on a +1. And I'm sorry, I didn't put that in shot so you can see it. So they have a 9. So a 9 in the +1 column is casualty and shaken. So we know that the Germans are going to have a casualty and I'll have to roll for their gut check. Let's do the Germans now. They're in the +2 column. And they roll a 10. And a 10 in the +2 column is casualty and broken. So both sides are going to get reduced. The melee is not going to be resolved this turn. So both sides get reduced. The Germans have to take a shaken gut check. So let's do that first, since their dice are already in the tower here. And I'm really messing up my map here. Yeah, let's put it there. All right. 7, so they pass, barely. Now the Soviets are checking against broken, which works the same way. They still need a 7. And they get it. So neither side is, we haven't actually had anybody go shaken or broken in this so far. So they stay in melee. Both sides get reduced, so that would be 1 casualty point each, which moves the Soviets to 17 and the Germans to 1. And that ends that basically ends the turn, because next thing would be remove markers, score victory points, and then end of turn. Then if we were at the end of the game, we would do the extended play check, etc., etc. So I think I might actually wrap up the video here and maybe just say that we're done. You know, I don't know that I'm going to play out the whole scenario. It would take probably 2 or 3 more videos to do the whole game. And I think you've gotten a flavor of how the game plays out. So doing more for video probably wouldn't be all that interesting, maybe. And it is Tanktoberfest, and I would like to move on and do other things as well, even though I really enjoy this game. So that is what I'm going to do. We're going to wrap it up here. I think the Germans are in a pretty strong position. The Soviets have taken a lot of casualties, as you know. The 3 wrecks here are indicative of the fact that our Flak 36 there on the German side did a lot of work here in this particular scenario. They've taken 17 casualty points, which is a lot. They would be getting some new units here in turn 7, which is actually just 2 turns from now. And those Su-85s joining the 2 remaining IS-2 tanks might be enough to sway things, but they're out of, all of the sapper units have been killed, which makes things a little bit more difficult as far as destroying the railway. They might be able to do it, possibly, but it's not going to be easy. There isn't a whole lot of infantry left on the Soviet side. And we still have Germans in this position here in their trench. We've got this guy. This is going to resolve one way or the other, probably not in favor of the Germans, because the Soviets do have another another infantry squad rather there. But in terms of their infantry has been almost completely wiped out. They have a squad down here, down below, as we saw earlier. Germans have plenty of infantry. So I think in balance, this is going to end up being a German win. I don't know that the Soviets are going to be able to have enough infantry left to tear up the tracks, to be honest. So yeah, that's going to do it. I do appreciate you guys taking the time to watch. Hopefully this was enjoyable. If you have not played this game before, hopefully it gives you a good sense of, this game, how it plays, how everything works. You get an idea of the game itself. This is a fun game. I really enjoy this game. And really looking forward to OST, Old School Tactical Volume 4, the Italian Theater, which is going to bring the Italians, the British, and Commonwealth forces into the game. There will also be, hopefully, if we can reach the stretch goals for it, there'll be some American scenarios. So if you have Old School Tactical Volume 2, which has American forces, you'll be able to play those scenarios as well. Old School Tactical Volume 3 is the Pacific. I have a couple videos on that game, as I have that as well and have played it here on my channel. I will probably play Old School Tactical Volume 2 for video at some point, perhaps in a future Tanktoberfest or, something else, or just because I like this system and want to play something from it for video. And obviously when 4 comes out, I've already backed that. And when that comes out, you can basically bet your bottom dollar that there will be some video on that particular game. So that is going to do it. As always, please, if you wish to leave comments, ask questions, etc., please do so. I will do my best to answer as soon as possible. I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch. If you did enjoy the video, it would be awesome if you would like it and or share it. And if you're not a subscriber and would like to subscribe, that would be much appreciated as well to help the channel grow. Give me some positive reinforcement for going forward and continuing to do this. But even if not, I hope you'll come back and check out future videos in the Hexed Encountered channels lineup. There's a lot more to come. I don't plan on stopping anytime soon, and we're going to continue to churn out content that I hope people find useful. So thank you again, and until next time, my name's Joe. This has been Hexed Encountered. Happy gaming.